you got to think about not necessarily copying anyone, but drawing some inspiration and then making it into your own, right? That's what's going to make it special. Today, we are going to talk about how to create an engaging podcast that builds your brand.
So the biggest thing with the podcast is how are you going to do it? You can do interview style. You're going to do just spitting off tips like Eric and I are doing. It is really up to you on how you want to end up doing the podcast. But the biggest thing that we found that really helps building an engaging podcast isn't necessarily the type of podcast you do. It's, do you take the feedback and are you continually improving it based on what other people are telling you? That's how you truly make it engaging. If they tell you there's things that are wrong with it, if you don't fix it, your podcast isn't going to be as engaging versus if you do fix it.
All right. So we had a special guest join us on the pod, Emma Patel, wave Emma. But
say hi.
Say hi, Emma. Okay. Anyway, Emma's shy. So Emma just joined us real quick. So okay, if you're thinking about creating a podcast, look, at the end of the day, you have to just be consistent, right? So when we talk about building your brand, it's like, okay, when you think about marketing school, it's like, I know exactly what I'm going to get there. It's going to be daily 5 to 7 minute clips. And sometimes they'll talk about trends. Sometimes they'll talk about evergreen stuff. We know what we're going to get from Neil and Eric. Also, they're business operators, right? Now, Neil was actually just on another podcast recently called My First Million from Sean Perry and Sam Parr. And those are longer form podcasts, right? And sometimes they'll nerd out on business ideas. Sometimes they'll bring some guests in. So each podcast has a different vibe. You have to just think about what works for you, right? Just like every DJ has a different sound or every musician's different. You got to think about not necessarily copying anyone, but drawing some inspiration and then making it into your own, right? That's what's going to make it special. And then also understanding that we've talked about this over the years, that if you're looking to build any type of audience at all, it typically takes about 3 years, sometimes even longer than that. I can just tell you again, the first podcast I still have right now, Leveling Up, the first year was pain. The second year was pain, basically 0 downloads. And then it continued to compound. And so I think if you're looking to build for the long term, just understand that maybe the KPI that you're looking to optimize out the gate is how you're learning and maybe how you're engaging with your customers and not necessarily the downloads. Because if you're looking at just downloads, I guarantee you it's going to make you want to quit sooner.
Yeah, no. So the thing that I found too is if you're trying to build a brand through the podcast, no matter how engaging or unengaging your podcast is, I know this sounds really bad. If you also just do it for a long time too, it'll really help boost your brand. I'm not talking about like one episode or 1 month's worth of episodes. Technically one episode isn't engaging and you guys already know that and isn't going to help build a brand. But I'm talking about doing like 300, 400, 500 plus episodes. When you get into a quantity like that, it'll help build your brand, whether your podcast is great or boring. And I know that sounds really bad. We want you to create a really good podcast. And as I mentioned earlier, the best way to make it engaging is just listen to people, get their feedback, adjust from there. If you don't have too many listeners, listen to the top podcast, go see what they're doing. And if it fits your personality style and you can jive with it, then do a similar format and a similar style. If not, then find one that resonates with you.
Yeah. Now, I'll give you a little bonus over here too. It's, when you have a podcast, sometimes we do interviews on this podcast, my Leveling Up one, I do more interviews too. It's an excuse to be able to meet really cool people. So for example, in Miami here, being able to have people connect with you in person and deepen that relationship, that is going to build your brand too, because people like doing business with people. And so that is it for today. Go to levelingup.com/live to learn about our next event, which is actually in LA, August 29th to the 31st. A couple things have changed with our live event, so you can learn more about it. Last event was rated at about a 9.33. That is it for today, and we will catch you later.